Hi guys, my name is Adam Sagar. We're here today at Hainsworth Park and we are going to show you today how to get the best out of winter practice. For me, winter golf's all about maintaining the good form you've had throughout the summer and then building that into making sure by the time the next season comes around, you're still in okay shape. And for me, that's what winter golf's all about. And so a good tip for when you're hitting wedge shots and when you're hitting any shots where it's kind of wet and muddy is just use a tee and just tee it up. It sounds silly, just a slight tee, so you're not hitting off bare mud, because this can create all sorts of confidence issues because you're not sure on strike. And it doesn't matter who you are, if you're hitting off this, you know, you can put Timecodes on that and it wouldn't be as consistent as what it would be if you're hitting off a nice flush summer's day grass. So for me, a little tee peg when you're hitting a wedge shot, it does wonders for your confidence and it does wonders for the way you want to structure your practice and get the most out of your practice. The beauty of the tee peg as well is that it doesn't really affect it all that much. When you use a tee peg, you can see the direction of where the clubs were. So you can see there where the balls hit the club face at the middle of the club. Now, if it's going at a slightly different angle, you know, that could tell you may be going inside, if it's going left, it's going right. It gives you a lot of feedback from what this is doing. So no, yeah, just touching on again what temperatures in winter do. They make the ball go shorter, one. They make your body, with the temperatures of winter golf, makes your body tighter, so it doesn't move as freely as what it would be in warmer temperatures, so that makes you lose distance too. So there's a few factors around winter golf that you've got to make sure. If you want to make it as though it's productive, you've got to know these little things. A nice warm-up, pre-warm-up's good. You know, when you look at winter golf and you're struggling with those wet lies, and you've got here a great example here at Hainsworth Park. You've got a lovely chipping area, which goes back roughly 140 yards. So if you're ever in the area and you need to do some practice, they've got a lovely putting green, they've got a lovely chipping green, they've got a lovely pitching area. Some places, some courses are limited to what they have, so it's a great place to come and also use the facilities. The guys in the shop, Paul, Curtis, are very friendly. It's definitely a place to come and have a round of golf, do some good practice, and so just worth recommending them, so big shout out to them.
Safe shot and the hero shot.
We're in winter golf today, so for the example there, if you've got greens that are wet and conditions that don't promote the shot where you can run it up like you would have on a summer's day, the idea would be to learn to hit it a little bit higher, to fly it a little bit further. So my advice would be there, it's not so much a hero shot, it's just choosing the correct shot you need. Choosing the right shot is the critical thing to do based on the conditions you have. You know, even if it's a summer's day, you could talk pressure points, you could talk, oh, I'm under pressure, you know, the flag's at the back, it's a good distance for let's say a mid-flighted lob wedge. But the safer shot might be just to hit a little pitch and run it up the green and take out any kind of situation where you might make a mistake. Because it comes down to simple things. I mean, you're not talking technique, you're not talking anything outside the realms of simply making a good decision. Like for example here today, with it being colder, with it being slightly wet, I don't feel as though attacking a good full out wedge shot is the right shot to make here. So what you can do instead is just club up. One, that's going to help. It's going to help in terms of getting the distance you need because it's colder, and two, it's going to help in terms of not having the wetness of the ground to play an effect in the shot. So for me here, a softer armed half wedge would be a lot better than a full out gap wedge. It'll help with strike and it'll help with distance control. That's got all the way there, perfect shot, no mistakes. Here's another great example of winter golf. The mud on the ball heavily affects how the ball performs when you hit the shot. Let's say the ball's here and the club face is here. If the mud is on the right hand side of the ball, typically the ball's going to go left. So you've got to accommodate that when you hit the shot. Now with winter golf it's okay because you have the clean and place rule, winter rules. So you can lift it up, mark it, lift it up, clean it and pop it down. But let's just say if you're in a summer's day and there's no winter rules and you get a shed load of mud on your ball, you've got to make sure you read the ball well. If there's mud on the right side of the ball, it's likely to go left. If there's mud on the left side of the ball, it's likely to go right. So you've got to take that into consideration. But with winter golf, it's a lot easier because you can lift, clean and place.
Cleaning the clubs. How important is to clean the clubs before every shot?
It's huge, especially in winter, because when you look, you hit one shot, it's covered, and you can see the grooves are all filled. So what that does, if you don't unfill them and empty them, is it affects the spin rate. When you hit a perfectly hit wedge shot, the ball goes up the face and it creates a spin effect that effectively, when it goes up, it goes like that, all the way up. So effectively, when you hit a good wedge shot, it's a good line there from the Pro V1, that it goes up the face like that. So as you hit down on it, the ball goes up the face, and with the spin, that's what creates the drag to go upwards. However, if the grooves are full of mud and full of grass or whatnot, it doesn't affect that. So therefore you can get spin, you can get flyers, you can get the effect that you don't want. And so for me, just a simple act of cleaning the club, especially when it's wet, muddy. But touching back on this shot here, you've got one flag at the front, one flag at the back. Now, with wet conditions, if you have the back flag, and you want to play a shot to it, you've got two selections. But my advice to you with winter golf, especially when it's wet, it's muddy, it's horrible really. With that shot, if you want to play it low, the likelihood is the greens will be like puddings. And so it's going to stick, it's going to bounce, it's going to do a lot of things that you probably wouldn't get in a summer's day, which you normally get a nice consistent bounce where it runs up. So you could probably play a little lower shot. Yeah, a lower shot would be the best shot. But in winter golf for me, I always figure it's best to get it closer to land it further. But you've got to make sure you're taking the lie into consideration. So for me, I like to play a little bit more of a flighted shot. Now, typically here you probably use a 50 degree. Sometimes people use a pitching wedge, given the confidence with pitching. But for me here, I'm going to use not my full lob wedge, I'm going to use a sand wedge. So it's a little bit in between. I'm going to look to try and float it a little bit further up the green, so that it takes away the horrible bounce, the soft bounce. Sorry, the softer bounce. So you make sure you're going to get it there. That's kind of where I'm going. So as you can see, when it's landed, there's no release, straight up, just gone, soft. And that's typically what you get in winter conditions. So when you're out on the golf course, just think about what it's going to do when it lands on the green. If you're going to practice these shots to get more confidence, a tee is a great way to practice. Now, if you observe this lie here, you can clearly see the last one I've just hit. Okay, it's okay, it's not gone too deep. I mean, I'd like to think my technique's quite good. My plane's pretty good, quite shallow in terms of my pitching, so my strike's never going to be too deep. But for you out there that are a little bit over the top, a little bit of a caster, and a little bit steep on it, this sort of thing might be it. You might get a little bit scared of it. So this is your best friend. Just put a tee in, raise it up, just so it's sat nicely on top of the grass. Therefore it takes away any kind of bad lie where you might feel as though you get a lie such as that, which is what you find a lot in winter's days, and it's miserable. It's not very nice. That you're going to struggle with the strike, you're going to struggle with the depth. So for me, going from that to this is like night and day. And when you're practicing, the idea of a good practice session is to build confidence, so that when you go on the golf course, the next time you play, you'll be a lot more confident to execute the shot you need to hit. You can see it's just slightly raised, not too high. You just pick it off. We're around the chippy green here, it's wet, it's muddy. Typical winter's day where if you've got the spare half an hour, you've not got time to go out on the golf course, but you want to do something a little bit, half an hour, just mess around on the greens. One thing I would say is use a tee peg. We've used it prior in the longer pitch shots, the mid pitch shots, and now don't be afraid to use it when you're chipping. Because again, if you've got muddy lies like this, and let's say your green's completely, it's not in good condition at all, and they struggled in the winter conditions, then use a tee peg. Don't be afraid to use it. Just pop it down there a little bit, so it's just elevated. Look, it's not 2 inches high. It's not up here, where you're going to go straight underneath it. It's just right at the bottom, but it gives you that little bed to hit something off, so you can gain confidence. And again, winter golf isn't about playing your best golf. It's about making sure that the golf that you've had and improved on throughout the summer, you're going to try and maintain that in some way, shape or form for the season that's coming. Too many people, in my opinion, when they've had a good season, they put the gloves away, and then when the time the season comes back around again, they're out of shape, they need to try and find the form again. So just come in and spending half an hour around the green every now and then, even if it's wet and muddy, just pop a little tee down. It's going to make the world of difference. I've got a 60 degree wedge, You can see here that the ball's not elevated all that much, but it just allows you to work on technique and maintain technique in those winter months. So you'll see here, I'll just pick it off. A little bit of spin. With the T-peg, again it gives you a little bit of feedback on where your plane is, or your path is, what the club face is doing, if it's open, if it's closed, the direction of the T-peg. It also gives you the direction of what the ball's doing in terms of spin. It's a great asset and not a lot of people use it. I think personally, if I was to give many tips, or the odd golden nugget in winter golf, just use more T-pegs. Conditions throughout the winter months really compacts the sand. They're very difficult to keep well maintained given what the climate throws at you, and the golf courses for the greenkeepers to keep maintained. Now, there's a few little things, little keys that you've got to make sure when you're in these winter bunkers, and that's one, the lie. Now, expect more often than not for the sand to be compacted. That's all from the water and the machines that they use. It's just compacting the sand all the time. So when you get into the bunkers, a big key is to really dig your feet in, because that allows you to feel how much sand is underneath, and that allows you to feel how hard it is. Now that affects what your ball's going to do, because if you go through the normal technique of a bunker shot where you use the bounce, keep the loft nicely on it, and you come in with a shallow path, you're going to collect the ball out. But with it being compact, if you do that, the sole of the club here is likely to bounce off. Just going to skip straight off it. So what would happen is you then expose the leading edge and you're going to knife it. So for me, above everything else, when you're in the bunkers and it's really compact, you've got to make sure you have that little bit more promoting descending blow. So for me, I always try to lean slightly further left than what I normally would to help my slightly bit steeper, just to make sure that you get out. And then from there you do your normal thing. Just take it back, in, take it out. And as you can see here, through this turf here, look, you probably only got a finger's depth of sand. It's not a lot. So be aware of what's under your feet. Use that as to your advantage. Slightly position your weight further left with a slightly more descending blow, angle of attack, and you should be okay. You'll get out, no problem, and you get on with your round. And so what I'm looking at is obviously I'm reading the green, but winter golf compared to summer golf is, with the undulations and the length of the grass on the greens, the ball doesn't break anywhere near as much. So that'll accommodate that into my read, where one, I'll be hitting it a little bit harder. And you can see here, I read that. I would read that normally around a ball right, but because of the length of the green and how slow it's going to be, I'm probably going to go right edge and just hit it firm. So let's see.
Yes!
There we go. Okay guys, winter greens, they're not the best. On average, they're typically a little bit beaten up, a little bit long. So my suggestion would be to save your confidence, don't put to a hole. Try and find yourself a good putting aid, just to keep the strokes tight and don't get too wrapped up with holding puts. So I've got the Super Golf putting plate here that allows me to check a few things. One, gives immediate feedback with the two balls. So the first thing I always use this for is face alignment. You can see here by the back of the plate that if your face is open and face is closed, it'll give you a good visual for where your club face is in context to the line. The second thing I like to use this for is start line. So you've got your face alignment from the back of the plate, and this allows you then to spot your start line. So if you hit a few putts on it and get it through the balls, it's good. If you don't and you hit one, it tells you immediately where your path is of the putt ahead. So I hit the right one there, so that tells me my stroke is a little bit in to a little bit out. So it's a little push. So we'll try again. Try and correct that. That's the best way to maintain a decent stroke for the winter greens. Hope you enjoy the video, and please make sure to leave some comments below if you've got any questions.